But welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. And we finally have some tournament results to look at with Obsidian Flames. So Limitless have finally added the deck list for the Obsidian Flames cards on Limitless. It took a while for them to get there. For the first almost week, we didn't have deck lists available for the online tourney, so I wasn't able to look at what decks were doing well and what people were adapting to the meta, but we now have them available. We can actually see what decks, what cards are being used right now in people's deck lists in the online tourney scene leading into Obsidian Flames. We have 3 tournaments right now that have deck lists. We have the Morning TCG, the Full Heal, and the Lavender Town Tournament. These are the 3 tourneys right now on Play.Limitless that have the deck lists available. We can actually see what people are building in the Obsidian Flames formats and what decks are doing well, and I'm super excited to take a look at them. Haven't looked at them yet, but we now have the deck list available, so it's about time we get into it. Speaking of getting into it, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe here to the second channel. If you haven't already, it'd be greatly appreciated. We are super close to 7,000 subscribers, so if you have not subbed yet, click the subscribe button down below. All right, now let's take a look at the list. So start off with the Morning TCG. The winner of the tournament is actually Rapid Strike. I think Rapid Strike's actually in a pretty good spot right now, and that's honestly due to the amount of Arceus in the meta. Not only do we have the Arc Pile decks, we also have Arceus Charizard, which gives you a pretty good matchup, I think, with the deck. I think that Rapid Strike is honestly not a bad deck right now, especially against Charizard EX. You can KO the Arceus with Urshifu. You can threaten double gunner Yoga Loops on the 60 HP Pidgeys and Charmanders, and you also have a lot of bulk in Charizard. Charizard is in one-hit KO the Rapid Strike VMAXs quite easily, and you can set up some plays with Alakazam and Gale Thrust against Charizard EX, and then Yoga Loop them. There's a lot of really cool plays you can make against Charizard. I think Rapid Strike's actually pretty good right now in the meta. Again, versus the Arc Piles, you're good, and then versus Charizard, you're also pretty solid, and with Lost Zone still running around in the format, you have another good matchup in that. So I think that Rapid Strike is actually pretty fine right now to play, and it's honestly not surprising that it won an online tourney. Rapid Strike doesn't really gain anything with Obsidian Flames other than just literally getting a potential good matchup in Charizard. Then we have Giratina, Arctina. Now, this is a crazy list because it actually plays a 1-1 Superior V-Star. And the reason for playing a Grass VMAX and V-Star is to counter Charizard. I mean, Arctina isn't bad against Zard. You do have Path to Peak, which does a lot of work against Charizard, but having that grass attacker for the extra bit of insurance really does go a long way against Charizard. So if you don't know what Superior V-Star does, we can pull it up here. Basically, for a grass and a double turbo, which is very relevant, as you can put a single grass onto Superior when doing Trinity Nova, and then you can then attach a double turbo to it any time in the game. It's also got a free retreat cost, and it does 190 damage. So with the double turbo, you're still going to do 340 damage to knock out a Charizard V-Star in one hit. The only downside I can see to playing Superior is his HP is actually really good for Charizard. Charizard can actually do 270 damage in a game, so the HP is the only thing that throws me off on Superior, but I do like the idea of Superior. I think it's actually really cool, and again, it's actually a pretty smart tech card in Arceus because you just need to put 1 grass energy on it, and then in the game, you just play a double turbo on it, and boom, it's attacking. So you don't have to put 3 energy on it, unlike, something like Leafeon V-Star, for example. So really cool to see the inclusion of Superior in Arctina. I think Arctina, going forward, probably, as long as Charizard is popular, you should still play a grass attacker, and Superior could be the ideal one. We got Lost Tina still doing well in the format. This one looks like a pretty standard list from the old format. Lost Tina has a good Charizard matchup because not only do you have access to Sableye and Path to Peak, but you also have insta-KO against Charizard, and I think Lost Tina is just great against Charizard. And also, Charizard struggles to KO Giratinas early on in the game, and that's one of the benefits. Another matchup I think Charizard struggles against is Xianpao. And we see that Xianpao has adapted the Pidgeot into the deck to get any card they want out of the deck. So instead of playing Arceus V-Star, they're now playing Pidgeot EX, so you can use Quick Search to get any card. The downside to playing Pidgeot, though, is that you don't have really a great time into Path to Peak. Like, Arceus V-Star obviously gets bodied by Path, but having Pidgeot as your engine means that you're more susceptible to Path. As you can see, this deck does not play the Barrel in it. But Xianpao is just a very strong deck right now. And I think it has a good matchup against Charizard because Charizard struggles to KO a Xianpao early on in the game. And then, obviously, once Xianpao takes a Charizard or Arc out, they're going to one-shot Xianpao. But they're always going to win the prize trade if they're just taking 2 knockouts per turn. So it's tough. So Xianpao doing well is no surprise. We got Rapid Strike getting in top 8 again. Again, I think it's pretty good right now versus the Arceus meta, and against Charizard seems to be a decent matchup for the deck. And then we have our first Charizard deck of Obsidian Flames. Now, this one is a bit of a wacky list. It's actually a straight Charizard deck. No Pidgeot, no Arceus. It's actually just plain Charizards, Bibarels, and weirdly enough, a one of Sylveon V. Now, I don't know if the Sylveon is good or not. The idea behind Sylveon is its ability lets you get a rare candy. So if you don't get Iono, you just, a lot of the time, Sylveon into the rare candy Charizard. So straight Charizard doesn't seem bad. Again, I don't know if not having Arceus or Pidgeot is good because you do struggle against a lot of decks in the format like Giratina and Shampoo because you're not taking a KO early on with Charizard. But I mean, straight Charizard isn't terrible. I guess you have Radiant Charizard, but again, Radiant, I don't even know because you have to put 5 energy on it still. So I don't even know. But I don't know. It's a really cool deck. The Sylveon's a cool idea. At that point, maybe play Sylveon VMAX, to be honest, and then you can have a better time against Urshifu. You have, Fire, Colorless, Psychic, Water the deck. Just saying. I don't know, that's probably Hopium, but it is cool to see. Double Vitality Band does allow Charizard to one-shot stuff. Actually, one of the things with Charizard, its numbers are very awkward. If your opponent takes one prize, Charizard does 210, which is also just short on KOs on, Vs and EXs, and that's where Vitality Band's good. And Charizard can do 270 damage, and then again, you're just short. Vitality Band fixes the math. So there's the first Charizard deck of the format. We see, in the tournament we've looked at in today's video. We got a Guardy list doing well. Guardy's still decent. Obviously, Charizard is a bit of an issue for the deck, but we do see the Tord list here do well. Similar to Tord's list. It's got the Vacuum, the Mirage Step, no Lumineon, and actually it's playing a bit of a heavier count of supporters in the deck. It is playing the 4 Iono, 2 Research, 1 Worker, which Tord did not play, but it does play the double reversal energy in the deck, which does help against Charizard. It does allow Gardevoir to hit high numbers against the Charizard EX. And then we have an Arc deck in top 8. This one is Arc Charizard, it looks like. Which, yeah, pretty standard Arc deck here, playing the 4-3 Arc, 4-1-3 Charizard. This is debatably the best way to play the deck right now. It does play 3 Artisan, no Battle VIP. I have seen some Charizard Arclists try to utilize Battle VIP paths in their decks to help set up their board, and I definitely think Battle VIP is something that you can consider playing in Arceus Charizard going forward. It does play the 2-1 Pidgeot, but no Bibarel, and actually playing 4 Iono and 4 Research as opposed to Colress's Experiment, which we have seen some decks play. So that's interesting. We see a Lost Box deck in 9th place here. Lost Box probably is fine in the meta right now. Is its Charizard matchup good? It depends, really, because you do have Sableye, which is really good against 60 HP Pidgeys and Charmanders, but Charizard is extremely tanky and very hard to one-hit KO. And I guess you do have the Dragonite as a big heavy hitter, and Charizard EX is not playing Lost City right now, so maybe Lost Box is good against Charizard. So we could see more Lost Box going forward. Maybe they'll play a Grass Attacker to Mirage Gate too. We see a Miraidon deck do well. I think Miraidon is another matchup that Charizard might struggle with, and that's because of the Raichu. The Raichu does give them a pretty good time into Charizard as they have a way to one-hit KO Charizard through Raichu, and we are seeing the Miraidon Path build here. Path to Peak, I think, was popularized here by Mahone at Worlds, so having Path is really good against Charizard, right? Not only being able to put on a lot of pressure with Raikou and Miraidon early on, and then obviously you have Magnezone, which could also be good against Charmanders and Pidgeys, but again, you do have those Path, which will shut off Charizard's ability, and that slows down the Charizard deck quite a bit. So definitely a really interesting deck in the meta right now. I think Miraidon's honestly not too bad against Charizard either, when you do have Path, Magnezone, and Raichu, and those are all pretty good cards against Charizard, in my opinion. Another deck that went 5-2 is Arctina. This one does not play the technology of Superior. It just plays Squawkabilly. It's a more bog-standard Arctina list. The one change it does have is the one of Vengeful Punch, which actually does improve the Guardy matchup a little bit. I mean, Arctina's always struggled against Gardevoir, in my opinion. Even with Cleansing Gloves, I found the matchup to be still kind of tricky because it's so easy for them to take 3 knockouts. It's not that hard. Once Gardevoir gets going, it's really hard to beat. Even with Judge and Iono Path, Gardevoir can still out-tempo Arctina. But the Vengeful Punch might help a little bit. I've seen Box of Disaster also used in Arctina to help against the Lost Box or the Guardy matchup, and I think that's pretty good. So Vengeful Punch is definitely a cool addition that I think Arctina can actually play. If you're not going to play, a grass Pokemon, maybe play that. We see a Lost Zone deck here. Now this is Lost Zone. Okay, I thought it was going to be like a Sableye Cramsar deck. It's actually a Bayonet EX deck. Kind of. The idea behind this deck, it looks like you're trying to get to Sableye through Bayonet's ability, and you get to play Bayonet EX, which I guess can help a little bit against Charizard. You can shut off her Candy. Kind of a cool deck, actually. This is a really cool Lost Zone deck. I mean, Bayonet's ability, basically, you can put Shuppet and Bayonet in the Lost Zone to get a Colress back, so you kind of have a bit of Iono protection, and you also get to put +2 in the Lost Zone while doing that. So this actually allows you to get to Sableye really quickly. Yeah, this is a really cool deck. I rate it. This is a really cool Lost Zone deck. This is a cool way to play Lost Zone. Because you can get to Sableye quicker when you have access to Vacuum, Colress, and Bayonet ability. Because Bayonet, Colress, and Vacuum can all help you put +2 in the Lost Zone. And then obviously on top of that you have Comfey. So that's really cool to see. And that's it for the 5-2 decks here. We can look at some of the other lists here. I guess under it. We can look at the top 16. A bit of a smaller tournament, but still. We see another Turbo Lost Box deck doing well. And then we got more Guardy action here. With a Drapion in it. Now, that's kind of wild. I mean, Mew VMAX won Worlds, but with Mew VMAX being good right now, I don't think you have to worry about Mew because of Charizard being really popular right now in the online tourney scene. So I don't know if you really need Drapion in Gardevoir. That's a pretty wild inclusion. I'm not too sure if Drapion is good in Guardy right now, because you don't need it, because, again, Mew should be hopefully held back by the popularity of Charizard. But, I mean, hey, I guess just that little bit does help. Goes a long way. We got an Arc deck here, 15th place. This is an Arc Pidgeot Vulpix deck. So this is a cool deck. So Vulpix right now is debatably good. Vulpix can shut off Charizard completely. If Charizard does not play any Pokemon that, doesn't have an ability, and the only ability they will, the only Pokemon they can attack you with is Arceus V. And to be fair, Arceus V is actually pretty good against Vulpix. They can two-shot you if they have a Choice Belt. So it is sketchy, but at the same time, Vulpix can still wall off Charizard. Charizard EX cannot damage Vulpix V-Star, and that's pretty good. And then obviously Pidgeot and Arceus V-Star can also not attack Vulpix V-Star. So Vulpix V-Star is pretty good against Charizard right now, depending on how many things they play. Now, they could play the Delphox V, which will attack the Vulpix, but you one-hit KO the Delphox in return anyways, because they only do 120 to you, and you can hit them for 160. So Vulpix seems like a pretty cool card in the format right now. We'll have to see if Vulpix gets adapted going further. This is kind of just like an Arc Pidgeot deck, though, where it's trying to use Charon's Care, kind of like Arc Intel in a way, where you Pidgeot every turn to get Charon's Care to heal your Arc every turn. Really cool deck. Really cool. I mean, they went 4-2 drop, but still, it is they went far enough in the tournament. And then in the 16th place deck here, we have another Arctina deck. Sorry, not Lostina, Arctina. Arctina with a Drapion. I don't know if you need that. Again, I don't know if you have to bother worrying about Mew right now. This deck's actually kind of interesting. It does play heavy supporters. It's got 2 Adventurous Discovery, which is something you don't usually see in Arctina, and 2 Charon's Care, and an Avery. Very interesting Arctina list. The technology is real, I guess. So that's it for the morning TCG. Next up is the Full Heal Tournament. The first place deck, once again, has Superior. So this is twice now we've seen Arctina with a Superior V-Star get top 8 back-to-back. So that's really cool. So Superior seems to maybe be the favored partner right now for Arctina if you're going to play a Grass Attacker. I thought Leafeon was going to be the one, but it looks like Superior is the option. I guess the nice thing about Superior is having to just put a single energy on it, because the problem with Leafeon is you have to put 3 energy on it. So instead of building up a Giratina, you have to build up Leafeon. With Superior, you can go 1 Grass on Superior, then Psychic Grass on a Giratina, building that up. So you can build up 2 attackers in 1 attack, as opposed to a Leafeon where you have to just build up just the Leafeon. So it is interesting to see Superior be so good. So cool to see. We got Lostina getting 2nd place. Once again, playing a grass Pokemon. This time we see a Shaman V in the deck. Shaman V does have a Revenge Blast attack. So Revenge Blast is 60 plus 4 more damage for each prize your opponent's taken. So in the late game, Shaman is going to do some pretty big damage to Charizard. And the idea against Charizard is you can take a KO early on with Giratina, and then you can start Requiem a Charizard, and then finish off a Charizard with a Shaman V. So that's, I guess, the strategy against Charizard. So yeah, just that little bit helps against Charizard. So really cool to see Shaman get added. We got another Xianpao deck doing well. This one does, of course, play the Pidgeot. Like the other list we looked at, it is opting for Pidgeot over Arceus and over Bibarel, which, again, does give the deck a bit of a weakness to path, but it does play 4 Pokestop and a Lost Vacuum, so it does play pretty heavy stadium bumps, which probably does go a long way when you're playing Pidgeot as one of your only ways to get cards out of your deck. So we'll have to see if Pidgeot keeps getting adapted into Xianpao going forward. Next up, we got a Lugia in top 4. I didn't know if Lugia was going to hold on in the new format, because other than, obviously still being decent, it might struggle against Charizard. You don't really have a good way to deal with Charizard apart from the single strike Urshifu VMAX. But once that falls, how are you knocking out a final Charizard? But it seems that Lugia with Urshifu is still just really good right now. This list is going back to playing the Luxray. There's a lot of Pokemon in the deck. I don't know if you need that many attackers. I don't know if you need Stonjourner, Yveltal, Urshifu, Luxray, and Tyranitar, but it did get top 4, so it could be wrong. I don't know what Luxray is good for right now, other than, I guess, Pidgeot. So maybe it is warranted to play Luxray, because it actually does help a lot against Pidgeot. I guess the Stonjourner is so you can attack Arceus V-Star with it and then save Urshifu for Charizard, so that you don't knock out Arceus with Urshifu, so that you don't take a hit from Charizard. But I feel like if you're trading really well to that point, Luxray, I guess, actually makes a lot of sense, because it just gives you a really good time into the Pidgeot, which is popular right now. So Luxray actually might have to go back in Lugia. And then, we see another Rapid Strike deck in top 8. Probably lost to Lugia because Lugia just kind of bodies Rapid Strike, especially if they have Radiant Serena. We see another Charizard deck here, and this one is the Charizard Arceus deck. It does have a couple of tech cards like the Delphox and the Radiant Charizard. The Delphox V being able to go 120, 120 is really good. Good against single prize, could be good in the mirror. If they don't bench the Mana Fee, it's good. I have seen some talk about trying out Delphox with canceling Cologne in the deck, because with the Pidgeot and Starbirth, you can easily set up canceling Cologne boss plays with Delphox. So if they do bench Mana Fee, you can still boss the Mana Fee, knock out the Mana Fee with the canceling Cologne, and then do 120 to another Pokemon. So there is some debate for the Delphox Cologne combo to be good. So if you're going to play Delphox, maybe try to play canceling Cologne too. But Delphox is good. It can catch people off guard. I guess in open deck lists, it's kind of bad, but in closed deck lists, it's pretty good because some people don't expect it. They don't bench the Mana Fee. But yeah, straightforward Charizard. We got the Arc Pidgeot engine being pretty good. And there's another Charizard in top 8. And then we have another Shampoo deck doing well. This one does play the Arceus, not opting for the Pidgeot, just kind of your more standard Arceus V-Star build of Shampoo, just ditching the Pidgeot, saying we don't need Pidgeot in Xianpao. And then in 8th place, we got another Arctina, once again playing the technology of the Superior. This one's actually a bit of a wacky build. It's actually got Squawkabilly, 4 draw supporters, and a Clara, so I don't know. This is a pretty wacky Arctina list. It's very teched out. I'm not sure you need to play Mana Fee. I guess it's okay. I don't know. This is a very crazy Arctina list for sure. There's a lot going on in here. Even playing 3 Nest Balls, 3 Ultras, and 2 Captain Aromas. This is a very techie build. Very techie build. The lack of draw supporters, though, I'm not a big fan of. I don't know if 4 draw supporters is quite it. I know you do play the one of Squawkabilly, but I don't know. I don't know if 4 draw supporters gets you there. Also, I'm not sure what the Clara is for. I guess like Clara gets you back like Superior if you want to go double Superior, and also gets you back Spiritomb against Mew. But we haven't even seen a Mew deck at all in this video so far. Another Arctina in 9th place. This one looks like a more straightforward build without the Superior V-Star, not needing it for the Charizard matchup, it looks like. Which I guess, like, against Charizard, you can knock out the Pidgeot and the Arceus with Giratina, which means all you have to do is knock out a Charizard at that point, which maybe isn't too hard to do if you can two-shot it. Got more Shampoo here. This one, again, going back to playing the Pidgeot in the deck. Actually playing 6 stadiums, 6 stadium outs in total. 2 Skaters, 2 Lost City, and 2 Lost Vacuum. So really heavy stadium discard synergy there, which I do like. Obviously, if you're going to play Xianpao Pidgeot, you probably want to play very heavy stadium bumps because this deck feels really weak against Path to the Peak. So that's kind of cool. We got, a Snorlax Stall deck. That's interesting. Now, I don't know about Snorlax Stall in the meta right now. There's too much going on in the deck for me to kind of analyze. But it doesn't seem bad against Charizard Pidgeot because the only attacker they have against your Mimikyu is the Charmeleon. And if you deal with Charmeleon, you kind of just win the game because a lot of the time they're not dealing. I guess like they can, hit your Mimikyu with Charmander, but you can put a pot helmet on it, and then Charmander, like the one that does 30 damage, is doing no damage. So this is actually a pretty good anti-Charizard. I actually think Mimikyu is pretty good against Charizard because I feel like once you deal with Charmeleon, and if they accidentally evolve the Charizard into Charmeleon, or they evolve the Charmeleon into Charizard, or if they're not playing Charmeleon for that matter, Mimikyu just beats Charizard. I mean, if they have Radiant Sword, I guess that's a problem, but I still think this is a pretty cool deck. Maybe Control's actually good against Charizard right now. It really depends on that Charmeleon and Radiant Charizard being played. We got another Lost Tina in top 16. Very straightforward list. We don't see any grass technology in there. We got more Lost Box here, doing well. Nothing new in the Lost Box deck either. We don't see any grass attackers, which is something I will be interested to see if they start playing. We got more Arc Charizard. So yeah, see, this is a build here that would struggle against Mimikyu. I guess there is the Bibarel, but I mean, if you just play energy removal, then you should be okay against Bibarel because, yeah, the only way to attack Mimikyu would be the Charmeleon, and if you deal with Charmeleon and put a pot helmet on, technically nothing is attacking your Mimikyu, so interesting. But yeah, more Charizard action. I do like the Pidgeot Bibarel split. I think that is kind of optimal right now because I really do think that you want to have access to Bibarel and Pidgeot in a match because Pidgeot, again, is weak to Path, and Bibarel not so much weak to Path Iona, where Pidgeot is. So I like having the split Pidgeot Bibarel engine. I think it's pretty good. And then we got another Shampoo deck here doing pretty well with Arceus and Pidgeot. So opting for both Arc Pidgeot. The nice thing about playing both Arceus Pidgeot is you can use Arceus early on to actually set you up the Pidgeot for later on in the game, and then from there you just kind of go from there. This build does not play Canceling Cologne though, so you're not able to abuse the Radiant Greninja plays as often, but again, having the Pidgeot Arc combo. Actually, the only supporters is just Irida and Boss, so really just relying heavily. Actually, you know what? I just realized this list doesn't even play a Stadium card. Oh, Okay, this deck would get bodied by Path to Peak. There's no stadiums in the deck, just a vacuum. Wow. That's crazy. And then we got more Charizard here. This one, again, being the Radiant Charizard RCS deck, actually playing no Pidgeot, just playing Bibarel instead, which is nice. Again, you're not as weak to Iono Path, and Bibarel can sometimes be better than Pidgeot as opposed to setting up multiple stage 2s. You can set up the Bibarel. I still think it's warranted to play Pidgeot, but Bibarel isn't terrible either. Again, that extra bit of draw does go a long way. This deck does play the Radiant Charizard in the deck to help against the matchups where you need it. And that's about it for that tourney. We have some other decks down below, but they didn't do as well within the tournament. Actually, I wanted to look at one of the Arcdura lists. I saw a really crazy, this is what I saw. So last night I was browsing Limitless, and I saw this Arcdura deck, and I'm like, ooh, Arcdura. I'm a fan of Arcdura, and I peeped it out. We see this Arcdura list is playing Leafeon in the deck. So Leafeon VMAX against Charizard is nice because the benefit of Leafeon is it doesn't get 1-hit KO'd by Charizard as easily, and that is nice. And you get access to Leafeon V to get turn 1 energy attachments in. This is obviously a very wacky deck, but it does go a long way. You are kind of hitting for a lot of different weaknesses. You have the Duraludon, which is good against Lugia. You have the Leafeon, which is good against Charizard. And you have the Umbreon, which is good against both Mew and Gardevoir. The downside, I guess, in this deck, there is no Spiritomb in the deck, which I think you would still probably want to play in here is probably a 1 of Spiritomb to help you a little bit against Mew. But again, we haven't seen a single Mew deck at all in this video so far. I have not yet looked at Mew, and despite winning the World Championships, we ain't seen any Mew right now, so maybe Mew's starting to fall off a little bit. Interesting to see, for sure. That's a crazy. I wanted to look at that deck because I saw that when I was browsing last night, and I was like, whoa. And then finally, we have the Lavender Town Tourney. And the top 2 decks are actually Rapid Strike, which, again, no surprise to see with Lost Zone still being played, with Charizard and Arc Piles being a potential good matchup for Rapid Strike. It's no surprise to see Rapid Strike do so well, for sure. It's definitely not a surprise. And then, of course, we got another Rapid Strike. I think both lists are fairly similar. Rapid Strike doesn't really need to do anything with Obsidian Flames. Like, it kind of stays the same. Whether or not you want to play a Mew at counter, which I don't even know if you need anymore, because, again, we haven't seen a Mew deck yet. I don't know if Mew's doing well in online tourneys, so there's a debate to not even needing Spiritomb right now. The deck he has to watch out for the most would probably just be Lugia, which, speak of the devil, we got a Lugia here in top 4. This one does play the Urshifu in it. Not as crazy as the other build we looked at with all the one-prize attackers. I do like the idea of maybe still playing Luxray within Lugia, though, because, again, when you're playing against Pidgeot, having access to Luxray would go a long way. But I guess Lugia's answer to Charizard is going to be that single-strike Urshifu, because it's so tanky in that matchup, and you can 1-hit KO Charizard back-to-back. The deck only plays 2 Urn, though, which I don't know about that. 2 Urn of Vitality is not great, in my opinion, because you do have the ability to mill them with Tyranitar. The lack of Urn, I think, is a little sketchy, but other than that, I think it's a pretty decent Lugia deck right now in the format. We see Arc Charizard deck here in top 4 too. This one, very straightforward. Actually does play a Path, so Path is really good in the mirror match, right? You just drop the Path down, or if you're playing against an Alolan Vulpix V-Star, you can put the Path in play, and then all of a sudden, you can attack the Vulpix with Charizard or whatever. But it's good in the mirror too, obviously. It's kind of, the reason why all those Arc Pile decks are playing 2 Path is because, Path is really good in the mirror. This one does play the 4 cores for Iono 3 Boss Engine, the double Pidgeot, no Bibarel, just a very straightforward Arc deck here. No VIPs, playing 3 Artisan, 4 Nest Ball to try to set your board up. Pretty straightforward Arc Charizard deck for sure. Then we see another Arctina deck here. This one does play more technology, but instead of Superior, it does play that 1 of Leafeon VMAX. So again, Leafeon VMAX, the benefit of it is a bit more bulkier, and it can sometimes be a good attacker. I mean, Grass Knot can do big damage, and again, against stuff like, even Single Strike Urshifu could be good because you can do so much damage to them. So I don't know, Leafeon could also be a good attacker because it is a bit bulkier. The downside is your opponent can go knock out Arceus, knock out Leafeon, knock out Bibarel to win the game. So that does make it a bit easier for them to map out their game plan. The thing with Superior is you're playing a 2-prizer. Your opponent still has to knock out 3 2-prizers instead of going knock out Arc, knock out Leafeon, knock out Bibarel. So it does give your opponent a bit of an easier win condition. That's the downside of playing a Leafeon VMAX in the deck. But Leafeon VMAX is tankier than Superior. Charizard struggles to one-shot it a lot easier. The deck even plays a Super Rod in the deck to try to recover Leafeon, try to go double Leafeon in that matchup, I guess. So that's interesting for sure. We got more Lost Box here. This one does play a Grass Attacker, so I was waiting to see a Mirage Gate Grass deck, because this one does play the 1 of Shaman V, which again does seem pretty good against Charizard, right? In the late game, and with the Claras and the double rods, or the triple rods even, you can easily get back the Shaman and try to reuse it multiple times in a match against Charizard. And sometimes you can just beat Charizard by just attacking every turn with Shaman if you're, able to pull that off consistently, which is kind of cool. We got more Single Strike. This one, again, playing the Urshifu, which, again, I think Urshifu is pretty optimal right now, because not only are you going to beat Dura and Arc, you're also just going to beat the Charizards, because Urshifu's arguably Lugia's best way right now to deal with Charizard. And then, of course, we got the Xianpao deck. Looks like another straightforward Xianpao deck without the Pidgeot. It looks like, actually, it looks very similar to Shintaro's list. It does play a Cynthia, which Shintaro played Cynthia in a Xianpao deck at the World Championship, so it looks pretty similar to that build of Xianpao. And outside here of the top 8, here we got ourselves Lost Tina, playing a Breloom. Yo, that's sick, bro, Breloom. So this, I guess, can attack Charizard. The downside of Breloom, it doesn't one-shot Charizard that easily, though. Machrost only does 140, but I guess you can hit it for 280. I feel like at that point, you just have Giratina, but I guess you only give up energy. That's an interesting attacker. Breloom in Lost Tina. Is that optimal? I don't even know. Did they play, like, Justified Gloves or something to hit harder? No, there's no gloves. Breloom isn't one-shotting Charizard. That's interesting. Huh. That's spicy. Wasn't expecting to see Breloom. I thought it was going to be Shaman again. More Xianpao playing the Pidgeot. Yeah, no Arc there. And then we got another Charizard deck here. This one does play the Arc Pidgeot. This one does play Path. Actually, 5 stadiums. I don't hate that. Actually, Mezagoza is kind of smart. A lot of the time, Mezagoza can get you a Charizard, so I don't hate that. I've considered Mezagoza in Charizard, too, because, again, being able to get Pidgeot or Charizard for free is kind of bonkers. That is about it for all the 4-2s. Everything else is just kind of like dropped to that point. But yeah, there you go, folks. Those are the decks right now in the meta. So the big breakaway right now, or the big takeaway we got is a lot of the Arc decks are playing grass attackers like either Superior or Leafeon. We're seeing Charizard's early adaptation. We're seeing that Rapid Strike is just farming online tourneys right now. And it makes sense because Rapid Strike is pretty good against Charizard and Lost Zone decks. And I think that's a big reason to play Rapid Strike. So Rapid Strike could be a pretty good play for potentially Pittsburgh. So that could be interesting. But that'll be it for me on today's video here on the second channel. Next week, we'll look at even more online tourneys as the meta keeps evolving. And I'm excited to see what else does well in these online tourneys, especially when the late nights come back and we get to see the late night results and what decks do well in the late night. Because those are the huge ones, and those are the ones we really want to get the results from. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another video. Bye-bye.